Woo! What a week, man. Yesterday, I'm expecting a package from UPS, and I'm tracking them on the website, and you can see where they are on the map. And it's getting closer, and then I saw it was close, so I went out, I signed for the package, it came. Then I go back to the website, and you can't follow them live on a map anymore, which was a little disappointing, because all day I'm looking at this guy on a map, and then there's nothing there. I wanted to keep seeing where he goes next. And, nothing weird, just for fun. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com. On today's episode of the podcast, I'm joined by awesome engineer. Has been on my team for just over 2 years now, maybe almost three. I don't think either one of us remember. But Craig Ranger, and he's going to talk about some really cool stuff involving the successor to Applocker in Windows. So check it out. I don't know, because I think it would be fun to keep watching the map with the truck. Why are you making a big deal out of this?
4, 3, 2, 1.
You've been on a lot of television in Hollywood and stuff like that, right, Craig?
I've done some work in the visual arts. Yeah.
Good.
Hi, my name's Craig Ranger. I'm a solutions architect. Way I understand that is I'm a guy who comes in and helps folks implement Intune and kind of solve problems. So I've been doing endpoint management for 12, 13. It gets longer time I think about it, but I think it's about 12 years now. Dell case is where I started. Moved on to SCCM, so kind of wrangled that whole big giant shipping container of a boat, and then most of my time now is spent over in Intune land.
It hasn't
unless we're
taken
talking co-management.
It hasn't taken the same toll on you as it has with me. I mean, you look great. You got hair. I mean, you look healthy. I don't know how endpoint management does that to someone.
Would you believe I'm 47?
No. Whoa. That's crazy.
Well, because I'm not, but lately, I've kind of, like as you alluded to, you kind of find yourself with these questions that you don't necessarily have answers to, and you've got to go and kind of learn how to use something. And what I want to talk about today was WDAC or WDAC, which is Windows Defender Application Control. The way I kind of discovered is it's basically the Applocker replacement. So if anybody's familiar with Applocker, this is sort of the new version of that. And if you're not familiar with either, it's a way to prevent people from running applications that you don't want them to. So for instance, somebody's got admin rights and they go out to the web and they download Notepad++. Do you want them to be able to just run executables from wherever they want? Or do you want to create like a whitelist of apps that you approve? So WDAC is not an Intune technology. It's a Windows technology, but they've recently added some capabilities inside of the Intune GUI to manage app control and kind of apply those settings and put those restrictions in.
That's pretty cool. So he says it's a Windows feature. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people know Applocker because I know it, and I know they replaced it, but with the name change, I mean, we can make that Microsoft name change joke a million times, but okay. So WDAC, I like that. Windows Device Application Controller, right? That's what you said. Control.
Yep.
App control. What are I know you want to show us some stuff, which is cool before that. So just thinking about prereqs, because nobody knows what they own. Licensing's a mess. So let's distill it. So it's a Windows feature. Is it a Windows Pro or Enterprise feature?
That's actually a good question. I don't think it's Enterprise because I just run Pro on my test boxes and it works just fine.
Okay.
The only thing I wouldn't be sure on is I'm going to guess it doesn't work with Home, but
no, nothing works with Home. Yeah, we don't acknowledge Home here. Okay, and then from can you said you can manage it with Intune? Obviously, they put the policies in there. Any Defender licensing needed for that you know of, or it's just
so for the immediate feature, the WDAC, the app control, no, because it is just a Windows feature and it is just a baseline GUI element in Intune. You don't need the Plan 2, you don't need Defender. But if you do have Defender Plan 2, it integrates with what is it called? One of the Defender for endpoint.
Okay.
data streams so that whenever you put a WDAC policy in place, if you have apps getting blocked or people are running things that they shouldn't, that all gets streamed up to your Defender console for, I think it's advanced hunting,
Okay.
which is a Plan 2 feature. And you can see, oh, hey, we've got somebody's trying to run Notepad++. Cool, we blocked it. That's good. Or, oh, gosh, we should probably unblock that because people need that.
So that's pretty wild. So even if you have like, because not everyone's in a position where they're deploying fresh new with autopilot and suppressing the admin user. So if you've brought in previous machines, you have standard admins, you can still go ahead and push that policy and control that.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. Okay, you want to show it to us?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's see what you got.
So if you're starting off from scratch, if you just want to try stuff out, I've got a virtual machine here that I'm playing with. And so this machine is pretty much just standard. I haven't really done anything other than change the background, so you'll recognize it's got all the bloatware and stuff like that. So the first thing we're going to load up is the event viewer. And here in the event viewer, there's a whole section that they call it code integrity. That's kind of the old name for WDAC and for Applocker, but it's under the apps and services here. And it always takes forever to expand. So we're going to pull up the event viewer so you can see as I start playing with this stuff that the policies are being applied. This is also where you can figure out if you're blocking things that you don't want to. Because whenever we do WDAC, we always want to start in audit mode. We don't want to block things unless we're kind of ready to do so. So you can see the log here, not a lot of activity. Since I've rebooted it today, it's just got these built-in driver policies that are active. So we'll come back to that in a second. The next thing is they've got a great GUI tool called WDAC Policy Wizard. This stuff can all be done using PowerShell commands, but who wants to learn all the PowerShell? So they've got this great little wizard you can go and download. It's the strangest installer I've ever come across because it's not like an executable. It's like an app.
It's an
package or something.
Yeah, it's an MSIX, which is something we're going to cover soon. So I'm glad. Wow, you brought that up. You teed it up perfectly because that'll probably be next week. So I'll get some poor soul to talk about MSIX. Okay.
So once it installs, it launches. Now, I will give you a warning if you are like me and you're using Hyper-V machines and you're not running in enhanced mode because of the problems it causes, you're going to think that you're missing buttons and that your installer is going wrong. Just expand it out, and you'll see in a second why that's the case. So if we're starting from scratch, we go to the creator here, and we always want to pick a multi-policy format unless for some reason you don't want that and you know specifically why.
Can I ask you what the difference is between the two, multi and single?
So multi is like the newer. You see, it's like 1903 and above.
Oh, it's like a V2,
and you can layer multiple policies on, so you can have a base policy and then supplementals. The old policy format where it was single is, you just have the one base policy and you can't add on supplemental.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's one of those. If you can use it, use the multiple format. So to that, we start with a base policy. WDAC Wizard has 3 base policies built in that you can start with. From the left to the right, the most restrictive to the least restrictive. So if you're just looking to get like a bare minimum amount of control in your environment, you can use this signed and reputable mode. And what that'll do is it's going to let almost everything through. It's not really going to be like a behavioral control thing. You're not going to prevent your users from doing things, but you will protect them from things that have bad reputations in the Microsoft Defender world. So, they collect all these signals. They have their super secret lair somewhere in Colorado or whatever that has all the information about all the bad malware. And whenever you put a policy like this in place, they check with that database and say, hey, is this executable known to be a good executable? And then it allows it.
Cool.
Whereas the 2 on the left, it's literally, if you run this and it has not been explicitly whitelisted, we block it.
Okay. So you probably want to start with.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, thinking about a lot of folks are just getting started with this. So it kind of makes sense to leverage. Okay.
If your goal is just for some security, do the signed and reputable. Let Microsoft do the lifting. If you're trying to actually like lock down and prevent users from doing things, you may want to start with the middle one because this will allow the Microsoft stuff. Now, it doesn't allow everything as we might see in this demo because every time we play with WDAC, you think, okay, I've covered my bases. And then it's like some random file that Windows uses. They forgot to sign it. And because it's an unsigned file, WDAC will block it. And it's like, but it's a Microsoft file. Why is it blocked?
You don't know
Why?
about your own file. Well, I've seen some. That's like an Intune. Some of the new Winget previews they have. Those
Mhm.
prepackaged apps will throw a thing in Defender saying
Yep.
this is not the latest.
Well,
You just gave it to me.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting how they've got these little things that kind of slip through the cracks there, but that's why it's up to us to find out these problems and tell other folks about it and disseminate the info and hopefully save some headaches for folks.
Yeah. All right.
So we'll start with this this middle one, that allow Microsoft mode. The far left one is basically as locked as you can get.
Okay.
Is just the way to think about it. So you give the policy a name. So we'll call this Steve is great.
I like that.
And we'll put this somewhere that we can find it, because by default it likes to throw it in like the most random folder you can think of.
Okay. So maybe make a folder beforehand for all your WDAC policies. Okay.
Yeah, have something, but just keep your eyes on it, because it'll throw them in random spots, like your temp folder under app data. It'll always tell you where it puts it, but who wants to go again hunt those down and find them?
Gotcha.
So the policy name is going to be the friendly name inside the policy. The file location is where you actually specify the output file.
I got you.
Okay. So your first kind of template options here, again, if you don't know what you're doing, defaults are probably fine. The one thing I would tell you to turn on is this managed installer option, and that'll make more sense in a second. And then if you want to use that, if you want to edit this to turn on the known good reputation stuff, that's what this intelligent security graph is. So by default, it's not on in this template, but again, you could edit this template to change that if you wanted. The other one here is the enforced store applications. So if you want to prevent people from installing UWP apps through the Microsoft Store, you can flip this on, and then only allowed apps are going to be installable by end users. By default, it's off on almost all of these. The last thing, though, is this audit mode. If you're just starting out, do not flip this into enforce mode unless you're ready to wipe your machine or roll back to a previous restore point, because you will break stuff almost always if you don't do an audit mode first.
So leave that on audit mode.
Audit before you break.
All right.
So this will show you the list of all the individual rules. Now you'll see there's not actually that many. These are pretty much just publisher rules based on some certs, because ideally Microsoft has signed all of their stuff.
Okay.
There are some additional checkboxes here. I'll try and get you a link before the end of the call, but there's a list of files that Microsoft recommends blocking because they had known vulnerabilities, things like old versions of BG Info.
Yep. Okay.
So I don't know if you remember, for a little while there, BG Info was actually a attack vector.
Yeah.
And so if you have a version of BG Info on your computer that's below a certain threshold, you can put this in the WDAC policy to prevent that older version from running.
Oh, nice.
And that's actually part of these recommended rules. So if you check the boxes here, it'll add in additional rules that are recommended by Microsoft. I don't see a reason not to do those, but
you never know.
It's up to you.
Yeah,
For the sake of simplicity, you might not want it, but
yeah, if you have some kind of niche and something's not working, and that's why, and you didn't look at okay, it could be like.
So I'll check it just so you can kind of see the spaghetti that comes out, and we're doing it in audit mode anyway, so not a big deal there. So that's it. It'll go ahead and spit the policy out now. And this is our base policy. Now, if we can come in here, we can edit this base policy some more if we want, or we can add supplemental policies on top of it.
And what is it? It's going to give you an XML or?
Yep. So it gives you an XML file and a CIP file. I don't have the slightest clue what CIP stands for.
Oh, interesting.
But I'm going to show you how you use CIP files.
Okay.
So if we run command prompt, and again, on my test device, I have admin rights, so I can do this stuff. There's something called CI tool. And it's got all these fun commands and aliases. But what we're interested in up here are the policy commands. So we're going to use the update policy, which has an alias of -up, and we're going to point it to that CIP file.
Okay.
So I'm going to say CI tool -up, // users downloads, and it should be that GUID.cip. So if I do that, it has now applied the policy to the machine. And then I just need to tell the machine to update its policy with a -r, which is the alias for refresh. And once I've done those two things, what we'll see now in our event log is that log has moved quite a bit. We now have a bunch of new entries under code integrity here. and you can see that the policy refresh for those two policies. You got some GUID information here. In typical Microsoft fashion, they make everything kind of obfuscated so you don't know what's going on. But so that policy is now in place. And what should happen is when I run stuff that I haven't explicitly whitelisted, we should see an event occur in the audit log. So if I go get, say, Notepad+++, it's 3 pluses, not 2, because I just made that up.
It's better. It's extra Notepad.
I just had to use Bing. That was
Painful.
Ooh, that was embarrassing.
Yeah, you don't know if it's gonna get you where you want to go.
So I run this executable now, and I have admin rights, so I can run it. But what we'll notice is here in this, we've got the exclamation point. That means there's some new logs. So if we look, you can see here. Let me do this.
Oh, okay.
Code integrity determined that this process, this executable, attempted to load a temp file, or sorry, this language DLL file that did not meet signing requirements. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't expect, that's one of those unsigned DLLs apparently.
All right.
Because what I'm expecting is it to just block the executable, not so much the support files it was trying to load.
Wow, so it even grabbed that.
Yeah, right here. This is what I would expect.
Okay.
Because it's trying to call that executable. But because it's in audit mode, it allows it. It's just going to record that entry. And if you had the Plan 2 Defender set up, this failure, this event ID, this 3076 would get sent up to your advanced hunting, and if you do that custo query, you can find these events on your devices.
That's what I was going to ask you. Or I guess if you set up different alerts, like if you wanted something to specifically check for these. Okay, so that's really powerful then. You can just snap it in. Nice.
So this policy's in place now. We can see it's auditing. Everything's looking good. To answer your other question about the XML, it resides next to it here, and this is actually kind of plain text you can read through and see. So if you remember, it was a really short list when we looked at it in the editor, but then I checked those 2 boxes to merge.
Okay.
And so when you do that, this is where all this crap comes from.
That's their
so these
recommended.
are individual known bad PowerShell scripts based on hash that they're like, these are in the wild. We know these are particularly bad. We just block them based on hash. Nice. And there's rules in here for things, like I said, VG info, stuff like that. And so it gets quite long. So I just thought I'd show you the spaghetti, but if you don't include those checkboxes, you're really only going to see, the default Microsoft cert.
I mean, that's wild. That's a lot of extra coverage for just the 2 checkboxes. So it's probably a good place to start.
For sure. And I had a client who was very security focused, and I showed them this, and they were like, those are exactly the executables that I was going to block, because this is apparently like the best practice in the security world, is to only allow executables to run if they're known good, if you've approved them. So.
Sure. Yeah, just why not? Whether you're blocking admin or not, it's just extra. It's extra coverage. And now that was local. On the machine. So I guess 2 questions. One is now pushing that through Intune.
So on the Intune side of this, in the back here, I've got my test environment here. And so if we go over to Intune, and let's just say you pulled it up, this is your home page. Over on the left, you've got endpoint security. And in preview, they've got this app control for business section. And by default, you're going to see nothing here. And over on the managed installer, you won't see this. This will be missing. Instead, that blue add button, that add button will be blue. And so this is the first step I would probably do, which is add Intune as a managed installer.
Okay.
And what you can set up is a rule with WDAC that says if the installation came from a known good managed installer, in this case Intune, the management extension, agent, whatever it's called.
Yeah, Intune, you got management extension.
Yeah. Then just automatically trust it, even if it's not something we would normally allow. If it came from company portal, basically, if your users got it from company portal, just trust it. It's fine. So this can save you some rule creation if your apps are already packaged. The only downside is it doesn't retroactively whitelist those apps that already got installed. So if you put this in production today and you've already got 1,000 computers, you still have to write rules for those previous 1,000. But going forward, a new install is going to be whitelisted.
Yeah, that's still that's still pretty helpful though. So you don't got to worry about going back.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So that's the managed installer piece. And then the actual rule creation, policy creation can be done right here in this GUI. So if we just go and do the, super easy mode, whatever that Geico lizard, E specialist.
We'll get him in here now.
You can use these built-in controls, and they give you like 3 options. Do you want to audit or enforce? Well, probably start off audit only.
Okay.
And then, do you want to block everything? Do you want to trust apps from the managed installer? Obviously, I would say yes. And then this is that reputation-based trust again. Do you want to trust apps with good reputation? Maybe, maybe not. That's up to you.
Okay.
This is a real easy and simple way to implement some WDAC stuff. I'll be honest, you got to watch it and definitely do it in audit first and see what you're getting, because some of the autopilot stuff isn't signed correctly.
I bet.
And it'll break autopilot, which is another fun thing. So
something you could push
try it
after,
out, see, but
yeah, or maybe you can push it after, like target it in a way. But now this doesn't look as, so this is a way to do it without the GUI policy web builder you showed us.
Correct. This is all just built in here. You can just pick from these options. It's very limited at the moment. Yep.
Gotcha, but it's in there. It's not the full thing, but they're probably going to get there. Okay.
If you want the full thing, you've got the enter XML data, and that's where we can take that file, which I generate on another computer.
Yeah.
You can take that file and you could throw it in here, and that XML would be downloaded to the machine. And essentially, what I did over in this machine, using the CIP, that XML would get put in here, and Intune will do the rest.
So that's like traditional Microsoft fashion, it seems like, where they're building it, they're starting to build it in, you get a little bit more robust. I could add my own stuff. You can do that and then just do this. So this to me looks like the win. Yeah, this is awesome, man. I appreciate you jumping on. For those who think, they want to know about like the preparedness, I mean, I think you can say, what did I hit you up yesterday afternoon? It was like, hey, you want to do this?
Yeah, it was like I think it was like maybe 4:30 East Coast time, which is 3:30 my time. So I think I divulged which time zone we're in. So there you go.
Yeah, but
no,
it was awesome. I was thinking we'll chat about whatever, but no, this worked out really well. So I appreciate it, and
of course,
yeah, we'll have you back in a little bit. Take care, man.
5, 4, 3.